Hey, what's up everybody? Hammerheart Metal Reviews here once again. Today we're doing another edition in my series where I'm revisiting some past year's best of lists. And today we're going to be talking about 1990 albums that are celebrating their 35th anniversary this year. Wow, what a crazy good year for metal. This was very hard to limit to a top 15. I had to leave a lot of great albums out. This year features some of my all-time favorite albums. It was really tough to rank. As I was going through this, like revisiting this from maybe when I constructed this list years ago, I've definitely changed the order a little bit. Some things have shifted, some of my tastes have changed. A lot of this would have still been on this list when I did it years ago, but there's some new ones that have crept in here as well. But you know the deal by now. I've been doing one of these every month basically this year, trying to just spotlight some anniversary years, some like milestone years, if you will. So talking about albums celebrating a 35th anniversary, let's see what my top 15 albums from 1990 are. And as usual, I want to get your picks down below. Let me know which ones you can't believe I didn't talk about, and just give me your picks anyways, because I like to read that stuff. And without further ado, let's get into this. Okay, so kicking it off, just cracking my list in 15th place, I am going with Winter and their album Into Darkness. So this is a foundational death doom record. This is a staple of the genre's early days, if you will. This band is from USA, and this was the only full length that they ever released, which is really a shame because I would have loved to see where they could have gone a different direction or just continued putting out some more material in this same vein as well. It really is a shame that we'll never get to find out. If you're unfamiliar with the band, I mean, I'm sure if you're watching this channel, you've heard me talk about this album countless times, but this is just so bleak. It's full of slow-paced dirges that are just crushingly heavy, really death doom in a nutshell. Like I said, a foundational album for the genre. So if you're unfamiliar and haven't explored this album yet, now is the time. Definitely go dive into Winter, Into Darkness. Up next, we're going to switch to some power metal with Gamma Ray and their album Heading for Tomorrow. So this is the debut from Gamma Ray after Kai Hansen left Halloween, wanted to form his own separate band. So he brought in Ralph Scheepers to do lead vocals. Kai Hansen still sings here and there on this album, but Ralph Scheepers is the lead vocalist. I will say this album, like over the span of Gamma Ray's discography, that would get a little bit better than this. This is a little bit uneven, but it still showed signs of promise, signs of what would come. For example, really worth the price of admission alone for the title track. 14-minute epic, awesome song. Like German power metal in a nutshell in that song. One of their best for sure. So even if maybe not every song on this album hits the mark, that one surely does. And all in all, still a great debut. Better things would come from the band, but still definitely an album worth listening to. Alright, up next, we're going to go with some death metal with Obituary and Cause of Death. So some US death metal. This is their sophomore album, and in my opinion, this is easily their peak. You've got John Tardy's trademark unique vocals. No one else sounds like him in death metal. He's one of a kind. And on this album, they brought in James Murphy to do some solos, and that just really dialed this one up compared to, say, the debut or what would follow. I just really feel like this is hands down easily the best thing Obituary ever did. They would never match it. I still really love Slowly Rewrought. Some of the later stuff is okay, but this one is just their peak easily. You got great classic cuts like Chopped in Half, the title track Cause of Death. Awesome death metal. That's what's on my list. Up next in 12th, we're going to stick with death metal. Cannibal Corpse with their debut album Eaten Back to Life. So another US death metal band. Like I said, this is their debut, and compared to where they would go later, being the massive death metal beast that they became, this one really is more rooted in like old school thrashy death metal, and you can feel and hear the thrash oriented roots coming through this music. But I absolutely love that youthful energy on display here. Chris Barnes' vocals aren't as low as they would be on subsequent albums, but he still brings in his trademark, like, very unique and gory lyrics. Like, this is just full of gore-filled concepts. A great start to their discography, and you've got some all-time classic songs like A Skull Full of Maggots, Mangled. Like, this one seems to be a little bit underrated in their discography, maybe because it's a little bit of a different style, but I absolutely love it. Cannibal Corpse, Eaten Back to Life. Up next in 11th, going with Testament and their album Souls of Black. So some thrash metal, some legends here from the USA. To me, this is a very underrated album in their discography. Like, no one seems to talk about this album as much as some of their others. It doesn't seem to get the same level of praise. And while it's not my absolute favorite Testament album, the riffs and solos on this album absolutely slay. Like, this is their 4th album. They really had come into their own at this point, and this is just full of catchy songs. The Legacy, come on, that is an absolutely killer song. The title track, Souls of Black, Face in the Sky has a great riff as well. Really front to back, this album rips. So if you only listen to the first couple Testament albums, you're missing out, because they have some other great albums as well, like Souls of Black. All right, so those were the first 5. Now we're going to get into my top 10. 10 albums that are even better than everything that I just said, at least in my opinion, at least for today. So let's find out what order I have got them in. Kicking it off in 10th place, going with Black Sabbath and their album Tear. So this is the follow-up to Headless Cross, which really saw them kind of developing their sound with Tony Martin as their vocalist and Cozy Powell on the drums. And what a follow-up this is. This is a super underappreciated era of the band. Like, I actually think Tony Martin is a killer singer. And these albums stand the test of time. They really deserve more respect. I feel like they're finally starting to get some appreciation as the years have gone on. But like, front to back, this album is top-notch. Tony Iommi is still killing it with the riffs. Yes, this is a different Black Sabbath than when Ozzy or when Dio was in the band. But I love this era of the band as well. Between Headless Cross and this, I'm really torn as to which one I even prefer. But yeah, if you have skipped this era of Black Sabbath, change that right now, because this is a goddamn great heavy metal record. Up next in 9th, going with King Diamond and The Eye. So to me, this was his last album in a string of absolutely flawless albums to start his solo discography, if you will. This was album number 5, following like Fatal Portrait, Abigail, Them, and Conspiracy. And then out came The Eye. And this one's like kind of what I was saying with Testament. This one seems to kind of get underappreciated as well. No one seems to talk about The Eye as much as those first 4 albums. And maybe rightfully so. I don't think it's quite on the level of those first 4. But it's not far behind. This is a goddamn amazing album as well. Some of the later stuff, once again, maybe isn't up to this standard. But this album, come on, Eye of the Witch, great track. Into the Convent, like, you've got Andy LaRocque just shredding solos. You got King Diamond's falsetto that no one else can match. It is just still a great album, underappreciated, and very deserving of a spot in my top 10. Up next in 8th, going with Deicide and their self-titled debut album. So some more USA death metal. There's a theme here. A lot of death metal on this list today. 1990 was a big year for death metal. And like I said, this is their debut, and it's an absolute classic by Glenn Benton and the boys here. You've got all-time classic cuts like Dead by Dawn, Sacrificial Suicide, Crucifixation. I just love singing old Deicide songs. It always puts a smile on my face just listening to it. It's so evil and satanic yet fun at the same time. Yeah, I love this era of the band between this and Legion. I'd probably give the edge to Legion, but that's not what this video is about. I'm just talking about great albums from 1990, and Deicide's debut is definitely a great album from 1990. All right, up next, maybe this one will be a shocker that it's this low in 7th place, Judas Priest with Painkiller. So new wave of British heavy metal legends here, but on this album, they shifted their style and really dialed it up to 11 with a full metal assault. Easily one of their best albums, if a tad overrated. I will say, everyone seems to lean to this and say, oh, Painkiller is the best thing they ever did. I personally don't think so. I like the old, like 70s era of Judas Priest is my favorite, but this is still absolutely killer stuff here. It's a classic for a reason. I mean, you got the all-time classic title track, other great songs like Nightcrawler, Leather Rebel, really front to back. This album is so catchy and so infectious. Like, these songs will just be stuck in my head forever. So yeah, if I was younger, this probably would have been higher than 7th place, but Some other things may have overtaken it over the years, but it's still a classic album and very deserving to be on this list. Up next in sixth, one of the most underappreciated and underrated bands of all time, Manila Road with the Courts of Chaos. This is some epic metal from the USA, and not only is the band underappreciated, but I'll say this album is really underappreciated and underrated in their discography as well. Maybe the programmed drums on here kind of hold it back from being as good as it could be, but get past that because the songwriting is top notch here. It's full of killer songs like Dig Me No Grave, Into the Courts of Chaos. Vlad the Impaler is thrashy as fuck. The Books of Scalos, the bonus track on here, is one of the best things they've ever done. Like, all in all, I absolutely love Manila Road, one of my favorite bands of all time, and this is borderline a top 5 album by them, in my opinion. Just missed out on my top 5 for 1990, but any given day it could be in there. But now let's find out what those 5 are. 5 albums that I think are possibly even better than everything I just talked about, although this is pretty tough. But anyways, in 5th place, Iced Earth with their self-titled debut. So some US power metal, thrash metal, however you want to call it. At this stage, they definitely leaned hard into the thrash elements while still bringing in that power metal flair. You had John Schaefer's guitar playing, like his riffs and triplets on this album are just on full force here, like on full display. All-time great songs like When the Night Falls, Curse the Sky, Written on the Walls. When I was a teenager, I played the absolute shit out of this album. It was easily one of my favorites, and it still holds up. Maybe I don't listen to it quite as much as I did back then, but anytime I put it on, I still absolutely love it. It kills. The riffs are really the shining star here. Killer stuff. Speaking of killer albums, in 4th place, Death with Spiritual Healing. So a band that should need no introduction, old school death metal from the USA, Chuck Schuldiner. Every album he released is a masterpiece. This is the 3rd album. I will say it's the last, like, maybe old school death metal sounding record before he started going in a way more progressive direction. And I will say, I think this one's kind of underrated, at least as far as any death album can be underrated. It's not really possible because it gets so much praise, but this doesn't really always seem to be like people's favorite death album. And it's not my number 1 favorite, but it's fucking right there, like maybe 2nd or 3rd in their discography, in my opinion. But it is just absolutely killer stuff here. Living Monstrosity, one of my favorites ever, but possibly my favorite death song ever, the title track, Spiritual Healing. I just love the guitar on this album. I love everything about it. Death is one of my favorite all-time bands. Easy choice to be on my top 5 for this year. All right, up next in 3rd, Megadeth with Rust in Peace. What can I say about this that I haven't said before? For years, this would have been my number 1 on this list for sure. I think a couple albums maybe have overtaken it now just because my tastes have shifted a little bit, but this is still possibly my favorite thrash metal album ever. It's at least in the mix. Anyways, I mean, Dave Mustaine here with Marty Friedman. The guitar wizardry on this album is just next level. There's nothing like it out there. It's still just absolutely killer all these years later. Holy Wars, Hangar 18, Tornado of Souls is possibly my favorite Megadeth song ever. Just really an absolutely outstanding, like 10 out of 10 album, basically. Can't get enough of it. Easily could have been higher than 3rd place, but for today I'm putting it 3rd because maybe a couple other albums have grown on me even more over the years. And let's find out what those are right now. In 2nd place, possibly my favorite band of all time, Blind Guardian, with their album Tales from the Twilight World. So this is their 3rd album, German speed metal, power metal. I mean, their first 2 albums were pure speed metal. This is where they kind of started shifting more in a power metal side of things, but it still has those speed metal roots. It's almost a transitional album, if you will. Started bringing in more epic nature in their songwriting. I mean, you've got great tracks like Traveler in Time. Lord of the Rings is an absolutely amazing ballad. The Last Candle, Lost in the Twilight Hall. Bringing in some guest vocals from Kai Hansen. Hansi Kirsch's vocals are just top notch. Absolutely love it. He was really starting to come into his own as a vocalist on this album and would even keep improving. But yeah, just really top tier stuff from, if not my number 1, easily one of my favorite bands of all time. But that just leaves one. What is my favorite album from 1990? After all of those first 14 albums I talked about, there's one more that I'm going to put in the top spot. Take a look at my channel name to see, and you won't be too surprised at what it is. Bathory with Hammerheart. Of course, I named my channel after this album because that's how highly I think of it. Quorthon had gone from his black metal roots and started gradually shifting into Viking metal territory. Really started expanding his sound on the previous album, Blood, Fire, Death. But then here on Hammerheart went full out Viking metal. Basically got rid of all the harsh vocals and really what am I trying to say? Started a whole new genre on his own, essentially, is what I'm trying to say. Very groundbreaking stuff, if you will. This is a very foundational album for many bands that would try to emulate this sound in the future. His legacy can honestly not be overstated. Basically, single-handedly starting black metal and then now single-handedly starting Viking metal. Not too many people can say that they had a hand in pretty much creating two different subgenres of metal, but that's why Quorthon is a legend. You've got some all-time classics here like Shores in Flames, Valhalla, Home of Once Brave, One Road to Asa Bay. I just love everything about this album. You can feel the emotion and the passion in his voice. Like, yeah, maybe he's not the best singer of all time, but that doesn't matter because it's about the emotion and just the feeling and the vibes that you get from listening to this music. It really transports you to another time. And yeah, Bathory is one of my favorite bands of all time for a reason as well. And that's why I'm putting it in number one for 1990. So anyways, enough rambling. Those are my picks. Let me know what you thought of them down below. And give me yours as well. And you can look forward to another one of these videos where I talk about a milestone year next month. So until then, Hammerheart Metal Reviews. Out.